Welcome to the panel discussion on special needs education. My name is Aisha de Souza. I'm a contributor for Dutch Buzz, an English-speaking radio program which caters specifically to internationals living in The Hague. In this discussion today, we're going to be explaining the options available to children with special needs and how parents can access more information in order to make the best choice for their child. We have three panelists today. Online, we have Winnie Vos, who is a nurse at the Center for Children and Families. She's worked there for 21 years, so she has extensive experience also with international families and their special healthcare requirements. Thank you for being here, Winnie. We also have Helen Klaus, who is an educational consultant at Inclusion for All, which provides educational advice for children with additional needs or disabilities. Which includes helping parents to find the right school for their child. Welcome, Helen. And we have Alina Avarvare. I practiced pronouncing that. Alina is a Romanian mother of two boys, the elder of whom was diagnosed with Asperger's at the age of 3.5. Your family has been living in the Netherlands for 14 years now. And Alina, you yourself have an MA in social psychology and you're a certified coach and mentor. So thank you for being here to share your story. I'm going to start, Winnie, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, wonderful.
Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Great.
Can you please start by explaining to us what the Center for Children and Families does?
Yes, that's no problem. The Center for Children and Families, we call it CJG, Centrum Jeugd en Gezin. We provide information, advice, and help with child development and parenting. And the nurses and doctors on the CJG are there to serve the needs of babies, children, youngsters, expectant parents, and families. And each district of The Hague has its own CJG. Mm-hmm. And first and foremost, we supply preventive health care. The role of the juvenile health care program is to monitor child's development, maintain preventative health care, and stimulate a healthy lifestyle.
Right. And you also have specific services, I believe, for children with special needs.
Well, specific services, because it's preventative healthcare, we see children from 0 years to 19. And during that time, we do the measurements and health checks. So if there are problems, in case a child has special needs or things, it's possible for the Center for Youth and Family to direct to other care like speech therapists or psychological or social medical specialists. So
right. Thank you, Winnie. We'll come back to you in a minute. Yeah. Helen Klaus, can you tell us what should families moving to The Hague with a child who has special needs, what should they think about when they're choosing the right school?
Okay, well, the first thing that's really important is to try and plan beforehand, and that's not always possible with international moves. But if you can do your research beforehand, then that helps. I think one of the difficulties that I encounter is that families are expecting that the system here will be the same as the system in their home country or the country that they're coming from. Mm-hmm. And that's not always the case. Some families are coming from systems that are a lot more inclusive, mm-hmm. and where children receive regular services or regular education, and that there may even, in some cases, not even be a special education system in their country. And then when they come here, the system may appear very segregated, and that can be quite a shock to families. So doing your research before you come is helpful.
So and when you say doing your research, a quick checklist, what are the top 3 things they should do?
Well, first of all is to find out what assessments might be useful, mm-hmm. To help the authorities here make good decisions about your child. So it may be having an IQ test done in your home country where the child is still settled before mm-hmm. you come, or having your medical records of your child translated into English before you come. and looking at the area that you're coming to as to whether there are services available in English initially, because some areas, those are less available than in other areas.
So in The Hague specifically, which school provides special needs education in English?
Okay, there are 3 different types of schools in the area. So we have Dutch schools, we have international schools that are subsidized by the Dutch government, and we have completely private schools. The private schools have systems for supporting children, but they're often very expensive, so it will depend on your budget. The international subsidized schools have less help available, but are also cheaper. But if your child is able to cope in regular education with minimal support, it may well be an option. And that's part of the research, to talk to the school before you come. And then there are Dutch schools, but a difficulty there is if your child doesn't speak Dutch, it might be difficult to access that schooling system initially.
Okay, thank you. And that's actually a good point to talk to Alina Avarvaré, because you navigated the Dutch system as an international. Your son is now 12 years old, I believe,
Yes.
And goes to a regular school in the Dutch system. So you're one of the exceptions. Can you tell us a little bit about the journey to get here?
Yes. Well, both our sons were born here in Netherlands. So for us, it was a choice. Neither of us had, let's say, jobs that could sustain the coverage of the taxes for the private schools, the internationals. And I think there was also a decision for us as a family. What do we want? How long do we want to stay there here and commit, to the learning the language? And we said it's going to be long term. You can never say forever, right? Because there is no forever. But we said long term, and our decision was to take the children into the Dutch system. And being aware of the fact that they needed to learn the language, not from us. So learning the language was one thing, because we speak Romanian at home and they spoke the Dutch language. We also educated ourselves how to raise a child bilingual. And then we went through the child care, so they went to the crèche. It was expensive, but we wanted to expose them to the language, and that's what we did. And we follow all the steps. We actually consulted with our neighbors for recommendation of schools. We visited the schools. We've registered the child when they were 1 or 2, because there's a long list. It might be good to know that if you go for a Dutch school, it's good to know that when they're at age at 1, 2, you need to actually register them, and otherwise there are waiting lists. And after that, we found the school for us that suited, matched the the needs. We took an informed decision, and then the rest is history. We've been in this ride, our son is in group 8 now, so he is finishing the primary school this year. And then we're just about in September to go to the middle bar, so to the next level. So it's been quite a journey.
But you skipped a part in the middle. When your son was diagnosed, did you have to have a conversation with the school about it?
Yeah, so what happened is actually the flag was raised from the child care, from the daycare, so they kind of told us around 3.5 that they had a suspicion. They've sent us to Centrum Autism at that time, and we had an entire process of diagnosing, and it was better than us. And then it was a choice. What do you say to the school? Because obviously you registered a normal child,
Exactly.
a neurotypical child, and then here you have a child with a diagnostic. So we chose to be very transparent, because put the cards on the table and say, well, this is what it is. We don't know what is coming, but let's work together. And the main idea was to be always in communication, always exchanging information and bringing everybody to the table. So we take in real time, the left knows what the right is doing, and we take the decisions together.
Yes. And Helen, this is kind of where you come in often, isn't it? To support families at this stage?
Yes, it is one of the things that I can do, is to come alongside the parents and to help them in the discussions with the school. There are some parents who don't speak Dutch, and the teachers might not feel comfortable doing some of the meetings in English. And as someone who's bilingual, I can help to facilitate that. Also, with parents, I try and prepare them for the meetings with the school beforehand. So talk through the concerns that they have and the questions they have. And then if they become emotional in a meeting, which can happen, or the meeting seems to veer off to a different subject, then I can help to bring it back to the key things that the parents want to have raised in the meeting.
Yep, absolutely. So it's your professional on the side of the parents who is there to deal on a professional level with the rest of the team. Yeah.
Can I just say as well, and also to help the school, because the school may not know about some resources that might be available. For example, some schools don't work so closely with the CJG in the international sector. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I can also raise and to try and get some additional help, maybe for the family and the school too.
Right. Winnie Forst, Helen just mentioned the CJG, and I was curious as well. How closely does the CJG work together with other institutions, so schools and doctors? Can you tell me more about that?
Yes, the CJG is providing help, the health monitoring of children between 0 and 19. So we have a close contact with every school in The Hague. And also with the international schools and the English schools. So there is a contact between them. If there is a problem, or if there is a question about health issues or something, then we can also refer to specialists, to development things. We let's say we are the middle of all the contacts between families and specialists
right.
that are necessary.
Okay, thank you. I see that there's a question that's come in from Estella Landeros, who says, is the use of assistive technology commonly used based on the needs of a student? I'm not sure whether to put that question to Helen or to Winnie.
I can
Helen?
start off. Certainly assistive technology for students who have a visual impairment. There's an organisation called Visio, for example, and they are extremely helpful in going into school as well and seeing what technology might be suitable and what might be able to be provided. For students who have a hearing impairment as well, that can also come through the Cluster 2 schools. For children with dyslexia, often the schools themselves have some options or can work together with parents. And even for chronically sick children, there are some trials through the HCO with using robots in the classroom.
Interesting.
As well. Yeah.
So Holland is a country of technology, and it's being put to use for that sort of thing. Yeah. And how is it possible to access these different services?
Again, the CJG can help by saying which organisations might be helpful. I also have quite a large network of people that I can also contact and point parents in the right direction. The schools themselves can also ask the school board, the SPPOH. They also have a network that they can tap into and give advice.
Okay. Winnie Vos, can you remind us of how to access the CJG for parents, the centre?
Yeah, that's no problem. There is a website, www.cjgdenhaag.nl. It's also in English, and there's a telephone number there, and you can email us for information.
Okay.
And we also provide the vaccinations. So if you have questions or when you want your child to have the vaccinations, we are also the one to
You're
contact.
the contact point. Thanks.
Yes.
And Winnie, I see that there's a question come in for you. It says, if you discover your child has developmental issues, that are concerning you, how can the CJG help with directing you to the relevant specialists?
Well, we can help by seeing the child. Our doctors will see the child and have information and talking with the parents and looking at the child about how the development is going. And
Okay.
in that way, we can refer.
Okay. Alina, I'm curious, did you find that the system was easy to navigate, and did you feel, as a family, did you feel supported by the team, the school, and all the specialists?
Well, in short, yes, I did feel supported. I didn't find that it's easy to navigate because I would say that the services were scarce, so they are not integrated, so to speak. So I think what I feel as a parent that is still missing is a place where, like, if you have the diagnostic, then obviously this child is not going to run off the diagnostic, and it's going through stages, and we were in need of somebody to walk on the path with us. Now, the Rivierdownen or the Centrum Autism, they only worked on a traject of 1 year, and they always said, you're welcome to come back. The proof is that we actually went twice, and we had 2 times the traject in different stages of life, so to speak. But they weren't necessarily able, they would share resources with us, but they weren't there to guide you. So actually, you as a parent, or us as a parent, were the, let's say, case manager. So you need to make sure that you have continuity, and then you reach out. And also the school, we've been with them in this transition. They learned a lot about this. They've discovered they have more children. So when Mario started, it was like, he was the only one who had this multidisciplinary approach, and then slowly the school learned more, and they changed their approach, and even they provided some suggestion in the last years because they've informed themselves better, but there isn't an integrative way of approaching this. So it's ownership from the parents, I would say.
Helen, it is an issue that schools don't actually know which resources are available to them for special needs children, right?
I think that the Dutch schools are not always as up-to-date and as aware about the needs of international families or bilingual families or multilingual families as perhaps they could be. And I think that the international schools don't always know where to find help, because when a child comes with a new diagnosis, one that they haven't encountered before, then they've got to start their research. So if it's a child coming with a known need that they've dealt with before, then they will have some idea as to where they find those resources. But if a child comes with an unusual syndrome or a disability that the school hasn't found before, then it is a case of having to do a lot of research. Yeah, and the international schools' resources for supporting children in the classroom are quite limited. The number of hours of support that they can offer, for example, is quite limited. And so sometimes the international schools are asking families to leave the school and transfer it into the Dutch system.
Right, because
they don't feel that they can offer a fitting and suitable place for the child anymore.
That's right. You mentioned that the international schools have systems in place, but they can be very expensive. So which schools would those be?
The completely private schools have systems for providing shadows for the children in the classroom. The American school in Wassenaar has a special ed program, which has additional costs, and for children who have lower IQs and who otherwise might not access international education.
Okay.
The British school, for example, also has a shadowing system.
Okay. Well, I think we're approaching the end of our we're approaching the end of our session. So I want to thank the panelists very much. Alina Avarvare, thank you. Helen Klaus and Winnie Vos over on Teams, I think it is. But thank you very much for joining us.